Well, good morning to everyone and my daughter who's coughing in the background. I'm here today at Ice Harbor Dam, kind of hiding from the wind. Yeah, because it's windy, as always in the Tri-Cities area. And I'm here to look at a couple of outcrops on the north side of the Snake River right before it enters the Columbia. If you recall from the Better Know Basalt videos, I was over on the south side of the dam, which is this line across the river here. And over there, there's a couple of outcrops of a tuff cone and some dikes. And I didn't get to the dikes, but there's an old field trip guide on the area. And on the north side of the river, a little upstream of the dam, there's a couple of outcrops of Ice Harbor that comes in through the Elephant Mountain basalt, and possibly some Pomona a little bit further on. And so I think we'll take a walk up the Columbia Plateau Trail, I think it's called, which is actually, this is the end of it over here by the Ice Harbor Dam. And it actually goes all the way to Spokane, northeast of here. Here we are at the first major outcrop from the parking lot area with a stroller to scale here. Closer look at this area, which looks to be basalt from the gray nature. It's blocky up there. It's even blockier down by the trail here. If we maybe get a little closer, what we have here looks to be, let's see, here's hand sample or hand size for comparison here. We have a lot of individual chunks of basalt just kind of hanging out in, let's see, probably an 8-foot tall section that's exposed here. And then overlying that, we have these kind of massive, more flat-faced basalt units up there. And those are actually basalt columns near the base of the Elephant Mountain member. And this breccia, you might think it's a different unit because it's completely different looking lithology, but it's actually also part of the Elephant Mountain member. There's a lot of reddish staining here, which I don't know if that's because it's exposed at this area or if because it's breccia and you get cracks and things in the basalt and water percolates down. Maybe it's a more porous substrate for water to come in and start altering the basalt. And I think I passed where the field guide said the dikes were supposed to be, although there are a couple of dike-looking features here. We've got these lighter colored units coming up and cutting through the basalt. I think I would call that a dike. I can't tell if it's a sediment or basalt from far away, but looking closer, it just kind of flakes away. So this is actually, I think, sediment or really, really broken down basalt, but maybe it's altered basalt. Because what's interesting is you have kind of sediment here or crumbly material here, and then in the center that's probably basalt. It's got the vesicles and things, and on the outside of the margins you have a kind of a classic dike chilled margin that is also very crumbly. I forgot my rock hammer at home, so I can't really break samples off. This is an interesting feature here. And yeah, there's a couple of other areas where those dike-like features appear, although these ones kind of follow the contours of columns and things. It's almost like it's been quench cooled to like the glassy pelaginite and then eroded away, which I suppose if this was, if that was breccia because maybe it was a wet area and it broke up as it flowed over and then cooled and there was still some water. Maybe some later dikes could be quench cooled. I don't know, that doesn't make much sense. If we go a little bit further down, well, actually, before we do that, there's kind of interesting layers around some of the thicker areas here that would almost lend me to believe that it's more of an individual flows coming in one at a time. So if those aren't the invading dikes of the Ice Harbor member, a little bit further down, unfortunately, where there is a huge bee nest in that cave there, I'm not going to be able to get close because I don't want to get attacked by whatever kind of bees those are. That feature kind of looks like a dike as well. It looks to be a little bit different than the surrounding material, and it's a sort of linear vertical feature here. I only see one, and there's supposed to be a couple. Maybe the other one is partially covered, or I just don't see it because I'm not going to get too close. But that could be a dike, I suppose. We just came from that way. The mile marker sign is right before you disappear around the bend over there, not too far. And this is the next major road cut from that breccia and column area, where we still have some massive columns. Then all of a sudden it changes and you get a lot of this light colored material kind of intermixed with basalt again. And let's see if we can get up a little close to it at least. Although actually before I do that, we'll take a trip down here and I'll show you a feature that I'll let you think about while we get closer. We have here in the middle of this whitish material, this big blob of basalt, which has kind of a blocky nature on the inside. Here it's reddish, and then right about here, if I zoom in a little bit, there's a little bit of a dark sort of rind on it, for lack of a better word. It's kind of a circular feature. And let's see. So there's another kind of rounded feature, or more of a like a UFO kind of shape sticking out of the lighter stuff here. So if you think about what that might be, as we, let's see, come back over here. Now there's a kind of a chasm before getting into the stuff there. Gotta watch out for rattlesnakes here. Let's see. At first glance, this might look like loess or the tushy beds. But let's see if we can get a little hand scoop here. There are some tushy beds at the entrance to Ice Harbor Dam if you want to check them out on the way to the site. So hopefully you can see if I zoom in. At least in person, there is a lot of twinkling going on in here. It's really fine grained. There's almost nothing other than kind of a silty, sandy size grain material in here. This by my pinky here is probably a chunk of basalt. And it just kind of blows away. You don't want to breathe it in though, because this is tuff. Just like there's a tuff cone over on the downstream side of Ice Harbor Dam, there's a little bit of tuff over here. And what happened was it, deposited, and it's all kind of chaotically mixed up here. If we back up a little bit. So we've got some tuff over here, we've got some tuff over there, and then this big line of basalt between it. So it's kind of chaotically mixed a little bit. And what happened was there's actually a younger basalt flow, the Pomona, that came in and invaded the lighter tuff. And because the basalt was heavier, it kind of dug in and dug under it and chaotically mixed a little bit and actually formed pillow basalts. There's another good example of one here, where you've got a nice round feature in the middle, in the concentric feature, and that's a pillow basalt there. I can't get close because it's overgrown and there's a kind of a chasm down there. But that's almost a pepperite type lithology. If it was a little more cohesive, it's not pepperite, but you got the same kind of makings of the one that's up by Frenchman Coulee, where there was a wet, diatomaceous sediment up there, siliceous sediment that the basalt intruded and kind of fractured and fragmented and formed the pepperite up there. This is kind of a similar story, except it just formed pillow basalts and broke up some of the basalt. It didn't lithify the tuff enough to make it into a pepperite, though, because it's still very soft. As you saw, I was just able to peel it away, kind of like the dikes on the down that we saw earlier. But there you have it. There's two interesting features within about a mile of the Ice Harbor Dam along the Columbia Plateau Trail, I think it's called. I'll have to look that up and put it in here when I actually find it. It goes through a lot of very interesting places, like the Devil's Canyon, where there's that really interesting trifecta of Esquatzel and Pomona, and I think one other unit that I've done a better know of basalt for. That goes up to Colotis, and then all the way up to Spokane through a lot of very nice Palouse territory. And actually, if we could find some Pomona itself, I was reading up on it, and it's so vesicular and has been altered a little bit after the fact that you can get some zeolites and calcite and quartz in the Pomona. Oh, so if you're braver than I am or come at a different time of year or with better equipment, you might be able to do some digging, or even if you just look around at the tons of gravel lining the road here. There's some lighter material over here. Maybe you'll find something interesting just kind of sitting out. This is a nice chunk of tuff that you can just kind of crumble away in your hands. That'd be a cool little hand sample. And if you talk about a hand sample, this was sitting by the side of the road, and I hope you can see the sparkly nature of it. If I get nice and close, I can't tell in the light here. But this is all volcanic glass. Maybe some fine powdered sediment in there too, but it's dominantly glass, and that's what's winking in the light there. So if you collect this, be careful. Don't breathe it in. Don't grind it up and huff it or anything. It's really light too, compared to the size of what it is. And very loose. You can just kind of flake away layers.